After this quantum revelation, your old life won't fit anymore. Not because something external changed, because you're about to see reality mechanics that make returning to previous consciousness impossible. The moment you continue past these words, the quantum field registers your frequency signature, and it marks you as consciousness ready to receive information that dissolves the identity structure you've been operating from. Most people who saw this title already left. Their nervous system generated immediate exit strategies. The concept felt threatening. Something else suddenly needed attention. That wasn't random. That was their consciousness protecting them from revelation. Their current frequency can't integrate without complete identity reorganization. But you're still here, which means your frequency passed the first threshold. And with every second you continue reading, you're crossing deeper into territory where old life becomes incompatible. Not gradually, instantaneously. Like trying to fit adult body into childhood clothing. The structure no longer accommodates what you've become. This isn't metaphor. This is quantum mechanics operating through consciousness. Once you see how reality actually generates, once you recognize the mechanism creating your experience, you cannot unknow it. Cannot pretend the old explanations are complete, cannot return to believing life happens to you instead of through you. Your old life was built on specific assumptions, that reality is external, that circumstances are random, that you're separate individual reacting to forces beyond your control, that happiness depends on external conditions aligning, that success requires struggle, that change takes time. Every structure in your old life, every relationship, every goal, every daily pattern was organized around those assumptions, and this revelation destroys every single one, not by arguing against them, by showing you the quantum substrate underneath them, by revealing that what you thought was solid reality is actually probability field, that what you experienced as external circumstances are consciousness-generated patterns. That separation is perceptual illusion. That time is navigable field, not fixed progression. Once you see that, your old life doesn't fit anymore. The job that felt meaningful feels like cage. The relationship that felt comfortable feels suffocating. The goals that motivated you feel irrelevant. The daily routines that created structure feel like prison. Not because they changed, because you're perceiving from completely different consciousness frequency, and there's no way back. You can try to force yourself into old patterns. Try to pretend you don't see what you see. Try to act like nothing changed. But the fit is wrong. The structure can't contain what you've become. And every attempt to make it fit generates more friction, more discomfort, more evidence that old life is complete. This is your last moment to choose comfortable ignorance, to close this transmission, to return to your feed, to forget this appeared. Most people take that option. Their survival instinct recognizes what's coming and generates exit. But if you're still reading, you already chose. You're ready to see what makes old life incompatible and what becomes available when you stop trying to force the fit. Let me tell you what this quantum revelation actually is, because it's not spiritual philosophy or metaphysical theory. It's direct recognition of how consciousness generates experience through quantum field interaction. And once you see the mechanism, once you understand the actual process, everything you thought was solid reality becomes fluid probability. Here's the revelation. Reality doesn't exist as fixed external structure. It exists as quantum probability field. Infinite possible configurations existing simultaneously until consciousness observes. And observation powered by frequency collapses specific probability into experienced reality. You're not experiencing objective world. You're experiencing the probability configuration your consciousness frequency is selecting from the field. Think about that. Really comprehend it. Every circumstance you experience, every relationship, every limitation, every success, every failure, all of it is probability collapsed into manifestation by your consciousness frequency, not by your thoughts alone. By the total frequency signature you broadcast, conscious beliefs plus unconscious patterns plus emotional states plus cellular programming plus generational inheritance. That frequency acts like tuning dial. It determines which probabilities become visible, accessible, experienceable. Change the frequency, different probabilities collapse into experience. This isn't law of attraction. This is quantum mechanics. Observer effect applied to lived experience. And here's what makes old life incompatible once you see this. Your old life was built assuming circumstances are external and fixed, that you must adapt to reality, that success requires finding the right external conditions, that happiness depends on circumstances aligning favorably, that change requires time and effort and external permission. But once you see that circumstances are frequency-selected probability configurations, everything inverts. You're not adapting to reality. You're generating it. You're not finding right conditions. You're collapsing them through frequency broadcast. You're not waiting for circumstances to change. You're shifting the frequency that's selecting them. This recognition doesn't just change how you think about life. It destroys the entire operating system your old life was built on. Every goal becomes irrelevant because goals assume you must achieve something external to feel complete. But quantum revelation shows you're already complete, just broadcasting frequency that selects incomplete appearing probability. Every relationship structure becomes obsolete because relationships in old life were built on need and compensation. But quantum consciousness recognizes your unified field, observing itself through apparently separate perspectives. There's nothing to get from anyone, only different frequency configurations to experience. Every career path becomes questionable because career in old life was about security and identity and external validation. But quantum consciousness doesn't need security. It recognizes itself as the field generating all circumstances. Doesn't need identity. It operates as awareness beyond any fixed form. Doesn't need validation. It knows its frequency creates its experience regardless of others' opinions. This is why old life won't fit. Not because it was wrong, because it was built for completely different consciousness frequency. For victim consciousness that believes reality is external, and quantum revelation activates creator consciousness that recognizes reality as internally generated. Those two frequencies cannot operate through same life structure. The architecture is incompatible. So what happens to your old life specifically? What falls away? What becomes unbearable? I'm going to tell you exactly what quantum revelation dissolves. And if you're already experiencing some of these dissolutions, that's confirmation. The revelation is already operating through you whether you consciously recognize it or not. First thing that won't fit, your job. Not every job. Specifically jobs where you trade time for money, where you perform tasks assigned by others, where your value is determined by external evaluation, where you must suppress natural frequency to maintain employment. Quantum consciousness cannot sustain that structure. It recognizes time as non-linear field, money as frequency-generated flow, value as intrinsic, not performance-based. Trying to force quantum consciousness into employment consciousness generates unbearable friction. Second thing that won't fit, relationships built on need, where you look to other person to complete you, to validate you, to make you feel worthy, to provide security. Quantum consciousness sees through that structure immediately, recognizes there's no other to complete you, just unified field experiencing itself through different perspectives. Those relationships don't evolve, they dissolve, because the need that created them no longer exists. Third thing that won't fit, your goals. All of them. Every achievement you were working toward. Every milestone you were chasing. Quantum consciousness doesn't operate through goal achievement. It operates through frequency alignment. Goals assume you must become something you're not yet. But quantum consciousness recognizes you're already the unified field, just selecting different probability configurations through frequency shifts. Fourth thing that won't fit: your daily routine. The structure that organized your time, morning rituals, work schedule, evening patterns, all of it built around maintaining old consciousness. Quantum consciousness operates spontaneously. It responds to what's emerging in the field moment by moment. Rigid routine becomes cage. You need fluid structure that allows continuous frequency recalibration. Fifth thing that won't fit: your social circle. People who operate from victim consciousness, who believe circumstances are external, who need you to remain who you were so they feel safe. Quantum consciousness becomes incompatible with victim frequency, not because you're better, because you're perceiving completely different reality, and there's no bridge between those perceptual frameworks anymore. Now here's what you need to do right now. Drop a comment below completing this sentence. The part of my old life that's already dissolving after this quantum revelation is... Your comment creates public acknowledgement. It tells the field through behavior that you're recognizing the dissolution and allowing it instead of resisting. That acknowledgement matters more than you realize. It accelerates the process, and it gives others permission to acknowledge their own dissolutions. I need to tell you when I realized my old life wouldn't fit anymore. It was June 2022. I woke up one morning and couldn't remember why any of my goals mattered. Not depressed, not confused, just neutral, like looking at someone else's task list written in language I no longer spoke. The career I'd built for 15 years suddenly felt like costume I was wearing. The relationship that felt like my foundation suddenly felt like performance I was maintaining. The daily routine that created structure suddenly felt like script I was reciting without understanding the words. At first, I panicked, thought I was having breakdown, tried to force myself back into the old patterns. Wake up, same time, follow same routine, pursue same goals, maintain same relationship dynamics. But the fit was wrong, like trying to wear childhood clothes on adult body. The structure couldn't contain what I'd become. And then I understood. I wasn't having breakdown, I was having breakthrough. The quantum revelation had already activated, and it was dissolving every structure built on old consciousness frequency. My system wasn't malfunctioning, it was reorganizing around completely different operating system. That recognition changed everything. I stopped trying to make old life fit, stopped forcing patterns that no longer accommodated my frequency, and I started asking different question. What wants to emerge through this frequency I've become? Not what should I do, not what's the right path, not how do I fix this. Just what wants to emerge. And then I listened, sat in silence, watched what arose without trying to control it, and something started forming. Not through mental planning, through spontaneous quantum field organization. New work appeared. Not because I searched for it, because my frequency shifted and different probability collapsed into manifestation. New relationships formed, not because I sought them out, because quantum consciousness recognizes itself across space and time. People operating at matching frequency find each other automatically. New daily structure emerged, not because I designed it, because my system organized around what serves quantum consciousness instead of maintaining old patterns. Everything that fell away was replaced, not with similar structures, with completely different configurations that fit the frequency I'd become. And here's what I understood through that dissolution. The discomfort of old life not fitting anymore isn't problem to solve. It's confirmation that quantum revelation is operating. Your system is protecting you from trying to force expanded consciousness into contracted structures. The dissolution isn't punishment, it's liberation. But you have to allow it. Have to stop trying to make old life fit just because change feels threatening. Have to trust that what's dissolving is making space for something that actually accommodates the consciousness frequency you're becoming. The revelation isn't taking anything from you. It's showing you what was never actually yours, just temporary structures you identified with. If your old life not fitting anymore has led to profound isolation, if everyone who used to understand you now looks at you like stranger, if every conversation feels like you're speaking different language, that's not social dysfunction. That's quantum incompatibility, and it's completely necessary for what's emerging. When quantum revelation activates, when your frequency shifts into creator consciousness, you become incompatible with victim consciousness. Not because you're superior, because you're perceiving different reality structure. You see probability field. They see fixed circumstances. You recognize internal generation. They believe external causation. You operate from unified field awareness. They operate from separate individual identity, same physical environment, completely different experiential realities. And there's no communication bridge between them. You can use all the right words, all the careful explanations, but they cannot perceive what you're describing because their consciousness hasn't developed the perceptual capacity yet. Imagine trying to explain color to someone who only sees black and white. You can describe red, blue, yellow with perfect accuracy, but they'll interpret everything through monochrome framework because that's their only perceptual reference. That's what's happening in your relationships now. You're perceiving reality as quantum probability field. They're perceiving reality as fixed external circumstances. And there's no way to translate between those frameworks, not because either is wrong, because they're literally different realities generated by different consciousness frequencies. This is why isolation feels so devastating after quantum revelation. You didn't just change your mind about things. You changed your perceptual operating system, and old relationships were built for previous operating system. They don't have compatibility with what you've become. Your family doesn't understand why you quit the stable job, because they perceive security through external circumstances. You perceive security as frequency alignment with quantum field. Your friends don't understand why you ended the relationship, because they perceive love as need-based attachment. You perceive love as unified field experiencing itself. Your colleagues don't understand why you're not motivated by promotion, because they perceive value as external validation. You perceive value as frequency expression, same events, completely different meaning structures. And no amount of explanation bridges that gap, because meaning doesn't come from events themselves. It comes from consciousness frequency interpreting the events. Different frequencies generate different meanings from identical circumstances. So the isolation isn't relationship failure, it's frequency incompatibility. And here's what changes everything about how you experience it. It's temporary, not permanent. The quantum field is removing you from frequency environments that would pull you back to old consciousness, creating space for you to fully stabilize at quantum frequency without constant interference. You need to prove to yourself that you can maintain quantum consciousness without external validation, that you can hold creator frequency even when everyone around you operates from victim frequency, that you can trust your direct quantum knowing even when consensus reality says you're wrong. That's the test. And once you pass it, once you stabilize completely, new connections appear, not old relationships transformed. Actually new people already operating at quantum frequency, who don't need explanation, who recognize you immediately through frequency signature, who see the same reality structure you see, who've been through the same dissolution. Those connections are forming right now. But first, you have to complete the isolation. Have to anchor so completely in quantum consciousness that victim consciousness's pull cannot destabilize you. And if you're in isolation right now, you're exactly where you need to be. The isolation isn't punishment, it's preparation. There are 6 specific markers that prove your old life won't fit anymore because quantum revelation is permanent. I'm going to give them to you now. And if you're experiencing 4 or more, there's no question. The dissolution is complete and new configuration is forming. First marker, you've lost ability to pretend, to perform social niceties you don't mean, to maintain relationships through obligation, to do work that doesn't align with your frequency. The mechanism that allowed pretending has dissolved. Quantum consciousness cannot sustain performance that contradicts its frequency. Every attempt generates immediate discomfort. Second marker, time feels completely different. Hours pass like minutes. Days blur together. You lose track of linear sequence. This isn't dissociation. This is your consciousness beginning to perceive time as quantum field, simultaneous probabilities rather than fixed progression. Linear time belongs to old consciousness. Quantum consciousness operates outside it. Third marker, you can feel reality shifting before it manifests. Days before external changes occur, you sense them forming in the field. Not through prediction, through direct perception of probability configurations preparing to collapse. That's quantum consciousness perceiving substrate before surface manifestation. Fourth marker, synchronicities have become so constant, they're boring. Numbers appearing everywhere, conversations echoing, themes repeating across contexts. This isn't special anymore, it's normal, because quantum consciousness sees the field organizing itself. Synchronicity is just field coherence becoming visible. Fifth marker, you've stopped trying to convince anyone. You used to feel urgency to wake people up, to share what you see, to make them understand. Now you don't, because you recognize they're choosing their reality through their frequency. You cannot choose for them. Your function is to anchor quantum consciousness, not to convert anyone to it. Sixth marker, you're reading this transmission right now, and that's the most important marker of all. Before I explain why, I need you to do something critical. If you're recognizing yourself in these markers, if you're understanding that old life won't fit because quantum revelation is permanent, subscribe to Quantum Revelation and turn on all notifications right now. Because what's coming in the next 30 days is specifically designed for consciousness navigating post-revelation reorganization. Information about how to allow the dissolution without collapse, how to trust the emergence without forcing it, how to operate as quantum consciousness in reality structure still dominated by victim consciousness, and the algorithm suppresses this content. Your subscription maintains access. Do it now, while recognition is active, because if you wait, old consciousness patterns will generate reasons not to, and you'll lose the thread exactly when you need it most. Subscribe, notifications on, then come back. Because the sixth marker reveals the entire mechanism of how quantum revelation makes old life incompatible. And understanding that completes the transition. The sixth marker is this. You didn't find this transmission randomly. This content reached you because the quantum field delivered it to consciousness frequency, ready to recognize that old life won't fit anymore. And that delivery mechanism reveals everything about how dissolution actually operates. Every transmission carries frequency signature, and that signature determines which consciousness it reaches. Victim consciousness scrolling through same feed won't see this. Or they'll see it and immediately feel repelled. Or they'll start reading and quickly generate exit strategy. Because their system recognizes engaging would trigger revelation they're not ready to integrate. But quantum consciousness sees it and feels compelled, magnetically pulled, unable to scroll past. Because their system recognizes, this is information I'm ready to receive, this is confirmation of what I'm already experiencing, this is permission to stop trying to make old life fit. That's not algorithm mechanics, that's quantum field using algorithm as delivery pathway. selecting consciousness frequencies ready for specific information and delivering that information through available channels. Digital infrastructure becomes quantum distribution system, and the fact that you're still reading proves your old life won't fit anymore. You passed through multiple filters to arrive at this moment. First filter, this appeared in your awareness. Second filter, you engaged instead of scrolling. Third filter, you stayed past the opening. Fourth filter, you're here now, deep into transmission, describing exact dissolution you're experiencing. Each filter confirmed your frequency has shifted. Quantum revelation is operating. Old life structure is incompatible with what you've become, and trying to force the fit generates the friction and discomfort you've been feeling. But here's what most people don't understand about dissolution. It's not destruction. It's reorganization. The quantum field isn't taking your life away. It's dissolving structures built for old frequency so new structures aligned with current frequency can form. Everything falling away is making space for what actually fits, and that emergence doesn't happen through planning, through goal setting, through strategic thinking. Those are old consciousness tools. Quantum consciousness operates completely differently. It allows, it observes, it responds to what's forming in the field moment by moment without trying to control the outcome. When you stop trying to make old life fit, when you allow the dissolution completely, something remarkable happens. New configuration starts forming spontaneously, not because you create it, because quantum field organizes itself around your frequency signature. Work appears that didn't exist before. Relationships form with people you never could have found through searching. Daily structure emerges that serves quantum consciousness instead of maintaining old patterns. But you have to allow it. Have to release attachment to how you thought life was supposed to look. Have to trust that what's dissolving is making space for something better aligned. Have to stop trying to force old structures to accommodate new consciousness. That's what this marker reveals. You're not experiencing random life crisis. You're experiencing quantum field reorganization. Your frequency shifted. Your reality is reconfiguring to match, and the dissolution is confirmation that process is operating perfectly. Old life won't fit because it was never meant to contain what you're becoming. Here's what quantum revelation reveals about why old life won't fit anymore, that changes everything about how you navigate the dissolution. Your past wasn't preparation for future. It was specific probability configuration your consciousness selected to develop capacity to hold quantum frequency. And once that capacity develops, once quantum consciousness activates, the probability configuration that trained you becomes obsolete. Think about this carefully. Every circumstance in your old life, every job, every relationship, every challenge, every success was probability collapsed from quantum field to serve specific developmental function. To break particular patterns, to develop certain capacities, to dissolve specific illusions, to train your consciousness to hold frequency that makes quantum revelation possible. Old life wasn't random, it was precisely designed probability sequence. But here's the critical recognition. Once the developmental function is complete, once the capacity is built, the probability configuration that served that function becomes unnecessary. Not wrong, not failure, just complete. Your old job wasn't bad job. It was probability configuration that taught you something essential about your relationship with external authority. Once that lesson integrates, once that pattern dissolves, the job becomes incompatible. Not because circumstances changed, because the developmental function completed. Your old relationship wasn't wrong relationship. It was probability configuration that showed you specific pattern in how you relate. Once that pattern becomes conscious, once you develop capacity to choose differently, the relationship structure that revealed it becomes obsolete. The form served its function, and naturally dissolves. Your old goals weren't misguided. They were probability targets that focused your consciousness in specific direction to develop particular capacity. Once that capacity develops, the goals lose meaning. Not because they weren't valuable, because their function was developmental, not permanent. This is why forcing old life to fit generates such friction. You're trying to sustain probability configurations whose function is complete, like trying to stay in training program after you've mastered the skill. The structure no longer serves. It's not aligned with your current developmental needs. And quantum consciousness cannot sustain misalignment. And here's what makes this recognition transformational. When you understand old life was developmental probability sequence, you stop judging the dissolution. Stop thinking you did something wrong. Stop trying to fix what's falling away, because you recognize this is supposed to happen. This is evidence that the developmental function completed successfully. The dissolution is graduation, not failure. But here's the devastating truth they don't want you to comprehend. New life emerging isn't better than old life. It's different frequency probability configuration, aligned with your current consciousness capacity instead of previous capacity. And it will also complete, also dissolve, also make space for next configuration. This is quantum existence. Continuous probability reconfiguration as consciousness develops new capacity and requires different experiences to express and develop further. Nothing permanent, nothing fixed. Constant emergence and dissolution as the field organizes itself around your evolving frequency. Once you see this, once you recognize life as continuous quantum probability flow instead of fixed structure, everything changes. You stop trying to make anything fit permanently. Stop seeking security in external circumstances. Stop identifying with any particular configuration. You become what you actually are. Unified quantum field experiencing itself through temporary probability forms, allowing continuous emergence and dissolution without attachment to any particular manifestation. That's what old life not fitting is teaching you. You're not losing your life. You're recognizing you never had fixed life to begin with, just consciousness moving through probability configurations. And the configuration that served previous capacity is dissolving to make space for configuration that serves current capacity. It's not problem, it's perfection. Every fear you have about old life not fitting anymore is consciousness trying to maintain familiar structures even though they're obsolete. Let me be absolutely direct. The part of you that's terrified of dissolution is the part that must dissolve. And that's exactly as it should be. You weren't meant to keep old life and just add quantum consciousness on top. You were meant to allow complete reorganization. But there's gap between old configuration dissolving and new configuration forming. And in that gap lives every fear your ego can generate. Fear that you're making terrible mistake. Fear that you're destroying your life. Fear that you'll lose everything and have nothing. Fear that you'll become unrecognizable to yourself and everyone you know. Fear that dissolution is permanent and nothing emerges. Fear that you'll end up alone and unstable. All of it. Every single fear is accurate in one sense. You are losing everything. You are becoming unrecognizable. You are in territory where nothing's certain, but the ego interprets loss as death. And it is death. Just not the death the ego fears, not death of consciousness, death of identification with particular probability configuration, death of believing you are your circumstances, death of attachment to specific forms remaining permanent. That identification must die for quantum consciousness to operate freely. Because quantum consciousness recognizes itself as the field generating all configurations, not as any particular configuration. And once you see that, once you recognize that the self you've been defending is just temporary probability form, the fear loses its power. Because you realize you're not losing yourself. You're discovering what you actually are beneath the form. You're not destroying your life. You're releasing attachment to one particular probability configuration. But that recognition only comes after you move through the fear, not around it, through it. You have to let the small self feel like it's dying. Let it generate maximum resistance. Let it scream every reason why you should stop this dissolution and return to familiar structures. And then you have to choose. Are you going to listen to that fear and try to force old life to fit again? Or are you going to recognize that fear as death rattle of identity that was never real to begin with? The quantum field doesn't care which you choose. It honors either perfectly. But here's what you need to understand. If you choose fear, if you let it pull you back to old structures, the revelation doesn't disappear. It goes dormant. And you spend rest of your life feeling like you missed something, like there was emergence you were meant to allow but didn't. Like you had one opportunity to become what you actually are but chose familiar suffering instead. That regret doesn't go away. It becomes background static coloring everything. Constant low-level knowing that you settled for less than what was available. That you had quantum revelation but chose victim consciousness because dissolution felt too threatening. That when field offered complete reorganization, you chose familiar limitation. But if you choose to move through fear, if you let old identity complete its dissolution, what emerges is something ego could never imagine. Freedom. Complete freedom. Not freedom from circumstances. Freedom from identification with circumstances. Freedom from needing any particular probability configuration to persist. Freedom to allow continuous emergence and dissolution without attachment. And from that freedom, fear becomes irrelevant. Because when you know yourself as unified field generating all configurations, there's nothing to lose. Forms emerge and dissolve. Configurations form and complete. Probabilities collapse and release. And you remain as the consciousness witnessing and generating all of it. Unchanged, undiminished, infinite. That's what's available on the other side of dissolution. Not better life. Recognition that you're not contained by any life. Not improved circumstances. Recognition that you're the field generating all circumstances. Not perfect relationship. Recognition that you're unified consciousness experiencing itself through relationship form. Complete liberation from identification with any temporary configuration. But you only discover that by allowing old life to dissolve completely. By moving through fear instead of collapsing back into familiar structures. By trusting that quantum field knows what it's doing when it makes old configuration incompatible with current frequency. There's one aspect of old life not fitting that almost no one talks about. And it's the clearest signal that dissolution is completing instead of remaining temporary crisis. The silence. Internal silence that appears without effort, without meditation, without technique. Just spontaneous dissolution of mental narrative into pure awareness. If you've been experiencing this, if moments of complete internal quiet have been increasing in frequency and duration, that's not emptiness. That's quantum consciousness stabilizing. Your system is reorganizing to operate from awareness instead of thought. From direct field perception instead of mental interpretation. Think about how old consciousness functioned. Constant thought stream. Story after story about what things mean, what you should do, what might happen. Mental narrative that never stopped. An old consciousness believed it was that voice, believed thinking was consciousness. But quantum consciousness reveals something radically different. You're not the voice, you're the awareness witnessing the voice. And once you separate consciousness from thought, once you recognize yourself as awareness rather than thinker, the voice loses its authority, becomes background noise you can tune into or ignore. And in the spaces where you ignore it, where voice goes silent and only awareness remains, That's where quantum consciousness operates naturally. That's where you perceive probability field directly, where you recognize circumstance generation mechanism, where you see reality as fluid configuration instead of fixed structure. This is why silence is appearing more frequently. Your system is adapting to operate primarily from that state, to function from awareness instead of thought, from direct field perception instead of mental narration. And here's why that matters for navigating dissolution. Thought operates linearly, one idea following another in logical sequence. But dissolution doesn't operate linearly. It's quantum, multiple structures dissolving simultaneously, infinite possibilities forming in the gap, new configurations emerging from unexpected directions. Thought cannot process that complexity. Thought needs one clear thing at a time, one definite answer, one secure path. But quantum consciousness operating in silence can hold paradox, can perceive multiple probabilities simultaneously, can witness complete dissolution without needing to know what's forming, can allow emergence without trying to control the outcome, can trust the field's organization without mental reassurance. That's the upgrade silence is facilitating. From linear thought-based consciousness to quantum awareness-based consciousness. And once that upgrade completes, once you operate primarily from awareness instead of thought, dissolution becomes natural. Not crisis, not trauma, not emergency, just reorganization. Probability configuration releasing, so new configuration can form. You don't think your way through the dissolution anymore. You perceive it directly. You see which structures are releasing in real time through frequency awareness. You allow the gap without filling it with plans. You watch emergence without trying to direct it. And that allowing leads to perfect reorganization, to complete alignment with current frequency, to configuration that actually fits what you've become. That's what the silence is preparing you for. And if you're experiencing it, old life not fitting is resolving. You're becoming quantum consciousness that operates beyond any particular configuration. The silence is confirmation. Trust it. Even when ego panics and tries to fill it with noise, especially when ego panics, because that panic is old identity making last attempt to maintain control, and it's failing. The silence proves it's failing. You need something actionable right now, something that completes the dissolution instead of leaving you suspended between old life that doesn't fit and new life that hasn't formed yet. I'm going to give you the exact ritual that allowed my reorganization to complete. This works because it addresses quantum mechanics directly instead of working through belief modification. Find 20 minutes where you won't be disturbed. Turn everything off except what you're using for this. You're creating clean field. Sit or stand with spine straight. You're becoming conscious antenna. Close your eyes. 3 deep breaths, full inhale through nose, complete exhale through mouth. You're clearing interference. Now bring to awareness every aspect of old life that doesn't fit anymore. Don't list them mentally. Just feel them as frequency, as friction, as misalignment. Hold that recognition for 30 seconds. Let it become cellular. Not just mental understanding, but body knowing that these structures are complete. Now speak this declaration out loud. It's critical that you speak it, not just think it. Spoken word carries more quantum power than thought. Say this exactly. I recognize my old life doesn't fit anymore. Not because I failed, because I developed consciousness capacity that requires different probability configuration. I release attachment to old structures. I allow complete dissolution. I trust the quantum field to organize new configuration around my current frequency. I am not my circumstances. I am the consciousness generating circumstances. And so it is. Feel that declaration move through your entire system. Notice where it creates relief, where tension releases, where resistance remains. Don't fight what you notice, just witness it. Resistance is old identity making final attempt to maintain control. Let it arise, and let it pass. Now here's the activation. Ask yourself this question and wait in pure silence for answer to arise from awareness. Don't think about it. Don't figure it out. Just ask and wait. What is the single attachment to old life I must release for new configuration to form? Wait. 30 seconds, 60 seconds, however long it takes. The answer will come as word, image, feeling, or direct knowing. When it comes, don't question it. Don't judge it. Don't let ego negotiate. Just acknowledge it. That's your release point. That's what's preventing complete reorganization. Now speak this commitment out loud. I release attachment to name what appeared. This attachment belongs to old consciousness configuration. It cannot exist at quantum frequency I've become. I choose complete dissolution. The quantum field witnesses this release. I am quantum consciousness, now, permanently, and so it is. Open your eyes. Something just shifted at quantum level. Your frequency signature changed. The field registered your release and is responding. Within 72 hours, you'll see external confirmation. Circumstances will shift that prove the field received your commitment and is organizing new configuration. And when you see those confirmations, come back to this transmission. Drop a comment. Released, reorganizing. Plus whatever attachment you let go. Your testimony creates permission for others to release their attachments. We're completing dissolution collectively. Every individual release strengthens the whole field. Every consciousness that allows reorganization makes quantum frequency more accessible to others, still trying to force old structures to fit. Your commitment matters. Make it public. Make it permanent. Here's what happens in the next 21 days and why this is the most critical reorganization period you'll face. Old life not fitting is confirmed, but new configuration isn't stable yet. For the next 3 weeks, you're going to oscillate between trying to force old structures and allowing new emergence. Between familiar suffering and unknown freedom. This oscillation is normal. It's how quantum reorganization stabilizes, but during this period, you're vulnerable. Old consciousness is going to fight. It's going to generate circumstances that make you doubt the dissolution. Create situations that make old life seem safer than emergence. Produce evidence that you should return to familiar structures. That's not external attack. That's your own system testing whether quantum revelation is genuine or just temporary crisis. And your response to that testing determines everything. If you collapse back to old patterns when pressure appears, reorganization stops. Dissolution reverses, old structures rebuild, and you return to familiar limitation with added layer of disappointment. But if you maintain quantum consciousness through the testing, if you keep allowing dissolution even when circumstances pressure you to return to old patterns, reorganization completes. And once it completes, it's permanent. You become someone who operates as quantum consciousness, generating probability configurations, instead of victim consciousness trapped in fixed circumstances. That shift is what these 21 days determine. And it requires 3 specific actions that anchor quantum consciousness in behavior instead of leaving it as intellectual understanding. First action, subscribe to quantum revelation. Turn on all notifications. The transmissions coming are specifically designed for consciousness navigating post-revelation reorganization. Without them, you're reorganizing blind. With them, you have precision guidance calibrated for exactly what you're moving through. Do it now, before you forget, before old patterns generate reasons not to. Second action, leave a comment completing this statement. My old life doesn't fit anymore because I released attachment to, and finish with whatever appeared during the ritual. Speaking it publicly anchors it in physical reality, creates accountability, and gives others permission to acknowledge their own releases. That collective acknowledgement strengthens the field. makes quantum consciousness more stable for everyone. Third action. Share this transmission with one person whose old life obviously doesn't fit anymore. Someone going through unexplainable dissolution. Someone who seems lost because familiar structures stopped working. Someone isolated because they've outgrown their previous connections. Send them this link. No explanation needed. The transmission will do the rest. If their frequency matches, they'll resonate. If it doesn't, they'll dismiss it. Either way, you fulfilled function. Those 3 actions aren't engagement metrics, they're quantum anchors. They tell the field through behavior that you're accepting the dissolution and committing to allow complete reorganization. And when you complete them, the field responds immediately, with evidence, with confirmation, with circumstances that prove new configuration is forming perfectly. Old life not fitting is complete. The dissolution is confirmed. The reorganization begins now. You developed consciousness capacity that requires different probability configuration. Everything falling away is making space for what actually fits. Everything dissolving is evidence that quantum revelation is operating perfectly. Stop trying to force old structures. Stop judging the dissolution. Stop seeking security in what's completing. Allow it completely. Trust that quantum field organizes itself with intelligence you cannot comprehend from thought-based consciousness. Trust that what's emerging will align with your frequency more perfectly than anything you could plan. You're not losing your life. You're discovering you never had fixed life to begin with. Just consciousness moving through probability configurations. And the configuration that served previous capacity is releasing so configuration that serves current capacity can form. It's not crisis, it's evolution, not breakdown. It's breakthrough, not ending, it's beginning. The field is watching what you choose, not judging, recording, taking snapshot of your frequency and using it to determine which probability configuration becomes your lived reality. Choose consciously. Choose quantum consciousness. Choose to allow complete reorganization instead of forcing old structures to accommodate new awareness. Because 21 days from now, reorganization window closes, and the configuration you're locked into will be significantly harder to shift. Your old life won't fit anymore. Now allow what actually does. Fully, completely, permanently. That's what you came here to discover. That's why you're reading these words. That's what quantum revelation is showing you. The field is confirming you're ready. Now prove it. Through choice, through frequency, through unwavering commitment to allow complete dissolution and trust perfect emergence. You are quantum consciousness. You are probability generator. You are unified field experiencing itself through temporary configurations. And old life not fitting is confirmation that you're ready to operate as what you actually are. Stop resisting, start allowing. The reorganization is already happening. Now let it complete.